Well, good evening. Saturday for our webcast here. We've got absolutely clear skies here in Texas. And this is our first cold day of winter. We were looking at 51 for a high in Oklahoma City, 59 at DFW. Shreveport had 62, and San Antonio checked in with 63. Just to start out with something different, here's the satellite picture from the MODIS imagery. This is of Maine, and you see kind of an unusual pattern here. This is fog in the valleys there, and I guess some of you might have watched the Mist movie from several years ago. I can assure you nothing like that's going on there. Very clear skies there in the northeast, but here comes the next front. This is the same system that came through the Central Plains over the past 1 to 2 days. And the center of it is right here, but you can see that this is a very dry system. Let me draw just the approximate fronts, and I'm guessing, I haven't really looked at the data yet, but we're probably looking at something like that. Maybe a warm front kind of like that. And there's hardly any clouds along the leading edge of that cold front. There's the Carolinas right there. We pan on down to Georgia, and all we see is some cumulus in the frontal zone where we have mixing going on there as cold air advection pours in. And back in Texas, clear skies. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about El Nino and La Nina. I was looking at that earlier. Let's see what chart we should start with here. Yeah, let's look at these Climate Prediction Center forecasts. And you can find that right here, cpc.nsep.noaa.gov. And they've got some products there. And what we like to look at is the anomalies right here. Let me get that centered here. Okay, it's a little bit too high there. There we go. This is the anomalies along the equator in the Pacific. And we're looking at South America over here on the right side. The Central Pacific is over here, and the Western Pacific, which would be Asia, Melanesia, Indonesia, that would be way over on the left side. And up and down, this is not latitude. The top of the diagram is actually date. This is about a year ago. This is December 2015, and the bottom down here is the current time. So we're seeing this scrolling downward with time. So that's kind of an unusual way to look at it there. And what this is showing us is that the sea surface temperature anomalies started out warm about a year ago, and this is basically El Nino. And we saw things flip-flop back in April or May, and now we've got things unusually cool in the Eastern Pacific, and that's the La Nina. Can't really write with this mouse, but so there's La Nina, and the cause of that is basically we have very strong east to west winds that are blowing very quickly, and because of that we get strong upwelling from the deep parts of the ocean. I think there's a graphic for this. Let me see if I can find that. I think I lost my place on that panel here. There was here we go. There was a very good depth map. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I guess I lost that, but it was showing the ocean in terms of depth. And when you have this La Nina pattern, you get upward motion in the eastern equator, and that tends to bring up nutrients from the bottom part of the ocean, and that's very good for the fishing industry there. So that's pretty good condition there. And the effect on that in the United States, we tend to get kind of a northwesterly flow. Now, a lot of years that can be associated with cool weather. But for that, we really need a good blocking pattern in Greenland. And we don't really have that this year. So what we're seeing is a lot of the systems moving into the eastern U.S. And so the eastern U.S. tends to be below normal, and we get above normal temperatures in the south and south-central U.S. And it also tends to be dry through that area. And we bring up the drought monitor. You've probably seen this a couple days ago. But that's a fairly typical La Nina pattern, and unfortunately this is probably going to continue for at least several more months. So not really looking good for the south there. And this is a graphic showing the differences between El Nino and La Nina. So here's North America right there. During the El Nino phase, things tend to be kind of warm in the eastern Pacific, and you get a lot of precipitation in that area. And what we have right now, eastern Pacific is slightly cool, so we end up with kind of like a high pressure pattern, and a lot of the precip moves into the western part of the Pacific. So let's go ahead and go into the forecast since we don't have a whole lot going on. Get our chart adjusted here. Okay, there we go. This is the current graphic. And what we're showing here is high pressure across the central U.S. Big old 1034 millibar high over northwestern Iowa. And that extends all the way down into Texas as a ridge. To the east of that, we've got cold air advection. You can see the thickness lines painting out this very strong cold air advection into Ohio and West Virginia. And ahead of that, there's the cold front. Already swept through Virginia and the Carolinas, and it's coming into New York right now. And out to the west of that ridge, we've got lee side troughing developing from Colorado up to Wyoming. So why is that troughing there? Let's go to the 500 millibar chart and I can give you some idea. Let me get that centered for you. Very fast flow across the northern Rockies. So when we have a very strong perpendicular component across the mountains through here, that's going to develop lee side troughing. And that's going to be right in this area right here, just along and east of the Front Range. So there's the jet pattern right there. So you can see that's a lot further south than what we were looking at 2 weeks ago. So now we've got the jet in the U.S. proper. So now we're getting kind of an active weather pattern here. So moving forward through our panels here, we're going to see that lee side trough be a kind of a permanent feature over the next few days. And what we'll see is this migratory high pressure area. We're going to see that shift southeastward into the southeast U.S. And then we'll probably see another Pacific system coming into the western U.S. So moving forward into Sunday, you can see not much change to the pattern. When you join the forecast tomorrow night, we're going to have high pressure over Lake Superior extending down to the south as a ridge across Tennessee. So it should be a pretty nice day in this part of the country right here. Eastern U.S. still trying to get rid of that system. That's going to be centered around Quebec City right there. And you can see that cold air advection just sweeps through upstate New York, through Pennsylvania and Massachusetts, and the cold front is well off to the right of the chart. So it's going to be a very cold and very windy day through this area here. Then, looking out west, next system coming on shore. We're showing a low pressure here, a very deep low near Vancouver Island, and this looks to be kind of an elevated system coming through California. So I'm not too sure where the front is, and what I have to do is kind of look at the thickness And if I go by the thickness, I'm probably looking at a system kind of like that, perhaps. It's not very well resolved here. We'd have to look at probably some other charts to really nail this down. But we're seeing the thermal field, the gradient, running through California to Nevada to Utah. So that's the area we have to watch over the next couple days. So when you join the WEBCAST on Monday, this is the pattern we're going to be looking at. And now you see the thermal gradient shifting into this area. So it looks like that system has already crept into the Rockies. It made a pretty good progress too. So the leading edge of that looks like it's like this, and probably a warm front like that through Kansas. So it looks like this is a pretty fast-moving system coming through the southern Rockies. However, it hasn't had much time to bring up moisture from the Gulf, so this is probably going to be kind of a dry system. Okay, so what are we looking at for Tuesday? There's our chart for Tuesday. System coming out into the I-35 corridor, kind of like that. And you can see that the model does try to break out some precipitation all the way from San Antonio to Dallas up to Kansas City. So what does our moisture look like on this day? That's what's really the key here to whether we're going to get any storms or anything like that going. We have to look at the dew points. Now, of course, I'd probably want to look at moisture depth too, but the availability of that stuff on the internet is very limited. So here's what the moisture looks like from Monday into Tuesday. Monday morning looking like this. You can see 60s dew points right around Brownsville, Texas, and that's going to move northward during the day. And then by Monday night's WEBCAST, we're going to have 60s coming into Houston and San Antonio. And then by Tuesday morning, if we had a WEBCAST Tuesday morning, I'm going to be in bed then, but 60s coming up into DFW. And then by afternoon, this is really where the moisture axis peaks out, right here. This is Tuesday night. So we have 70s right off the Corpus Christi coastline, 63 there at DFW, 64 at San Antonio. That's some pretty decent moisture. But the problem is it's probably going to be kind of shallow. You need at least a couple days of moisture return to really build up the depth. And we probably aren't going to have that. Now, I did run the high split model for 18Z. That's right in here. 18Z, this is going to be Tuesday at about noon. And I picked DFW, and you can see they're right there in that moisture axis, just ahead of that front coming in through here. So where's the air masses at DFW coming from? I ran the high split for the GFS back from that 18Z observation at DFW. And these are the trajectories that I've got. And you can see I've got a red one for 500 meters, which is about 1,500 feet off the ground. I have a blue one for 1,000 meters, which is about 3,500 feet. And then up at 6,000 feet, I have this green one. So I'm sampling the air at DFW at 3 different layers. So let's look at the lowest one near the ground, the red one. Looks like our trajectories come from the Gulf. So one day before Tuesday, it was out in this area of the Gulf. And then going back 2 days, it was like this. And then we find that 3 days ago, it recurved from Alabama and up to Minnesota. And we know from the events of this past weekend that this is associated with that cold air outbreak. So what's happened is we've driven some cool air into the Gulf, and it's loitered out there for a couple of days, and now it's on its way back northward, picking up a little bit of moisture in the process. And what do the altitudes look like for that air parcel? You can see that back on the 17th, which was Thursday, that air mass was up at about 5 kilometers. It descended, reached the Gulf, and then it lingered there picking up moisture, and then it arrives at DFW. So that's the history of that air parcel at 500 meters. The air parcel at 1,000, kind of a similar pattern. It stayed in the mid-levels, ascended, and then descended, and that was over the Gulf again. And then up at 2 kilometers, you can see we've got a different presentation. It's coming from northern Mexico. So this is post-dryline air forming the EML, which is the environmental mixed layer. That's basically the air behind the dry line and coming over the top of the dry line over the tropical air. So that's spread over DFW. It's above the tropical layer. And that's about what we would expect on a storm day for that area. So I think basically what we're looking at is, again, very limited moisture. The moisture depth probably about 1 kilometer there, and the source of that was over the Gulf. And looking at the Gulf temperatures, that air parcel heading up to DFW, it came off the Alabama coast and then lingered out in this area and then went up to DFW. And these sea surface temperatures are on the order of, let's see, what's orange? That's going to be 26 to 27. That's going to be about 80 degrees. So that's some decent warm air. Definitely going to get some evaporation from that, but just not really enough time. And that's going to really limit how much moisture is going to make it back up into Texas. Okay, then going forward, I'll just show you the dew point right here, and you can see what happens. From Tuesday midday, as that front pushes into Arkansas and Texas, we still get a few 60s ahead of that wedge of cold air, but just not enough moisture makes it northward. And you can see now we're playing around with 50s and 40s dew points, and that's not going to be good for severe weather. But going ahead a few days, all the way past Thanksgiving to November 30th on Wednesday. This is the next system coming in from Texas, and you can see now we've got 70s making it up into Louisiana. So this could be a more potent severe weather day, anywhere from I-35 eastward into the south central U.S. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this for possible severe weather. I think it may still be marginal, because you can see those 70s don't make it very far north, but you know, a lot of things could change. This is 270 hours out. So let's move that forward, going back to the 23rd. What does Thanksgiving look like? It's going to look like this right here. There's the chart at noon. Eastern U.S. still looking kind of unsettled with that dry system moving into the northeast U.S. Probably be kind of blustery back in Michigan through Chicago and into Ohio, and then just kind of rainy through much of upstate New York and New England, snow at the higher elevations. Fair weather across the central U.S., high pressure right here. And this here looks to be, I guess that's probably a weak bear clinic low. I don't think that's really a lee side trough or anything like that. Yeah, there's a high pressure area right there. So this is, yeah, it's a weak frontal system coming in. And then off the coast of the Pacific on Thanksgiving, just looks kind of windy, south wind ahead of a new system coming on shore. So it looks to be pretty decent across much of the nation. So it looks like kind of a reinforcing shot of cool air. And then on the weekend of 26th through 27th, not a whole lot going on here. Lee side trough developing in here, and I think this may be this could be a new frontal system in the Texas Panhandle. Yeah, there we go. So this is going to be the new weather system moving into the south central U.S. on the 29th, and probably going to have a shot of maybe some severe weather. I would say probably Louisiana and southern Mississippi, north of that, the moisture will be kind of limited. And then that'll make its way into the northeast U.S. and looks like a new system. Wow, these are two systems, one on the 29th and one on the 30th. I don't think the previous model was forecasting this. So here we might get a little bit more of a moisture return there. Let me go back and check something real quick. Yeah, I'll be dang, that's just kind of a weak lead system moving ahead of the main one. And behind that, you can see the 540 line comes all the way into Little Rock and Oklahoma City. So this will be a pretty cold shot here, and they're forecasting a little bit of snow here in Missouri and Iowa. And looks like another system coming up from the Four Corners area. So yeah, this here, I'm telling you, we're 340 hours out. So this is pretty crazy here, but large area of high pressure and very deep system in Arizona. When we see that, we tend to get an overrunning pattern in Texas. Things tend to be very cloudy. And if it's cold enough, which it does not look like in this case, that's when we could get snow out in this area. But again, we're probably a little bit too warm for that. Actually, no, it is firing something here in Oklahoma. So this is December 5th. This is way out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is Monday, December 5th. So that's something for Oklahoma City to watch out for there. Okay, that's about all I got for today. I appreciate y'all watching, and let me see if there's anything else I want to cover here. Yeah, I think we did all the charts here. Anyway, if you have any comments or anything like that, leave it on the video webpage, and I will check that out. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock.